If you think your gardening season ends the moment August hits, you're about to waste the best planting window of the year. Most people put their trowels away in August. They figure the heat's too much, the season's winding down, and whatever they plant now won't have time to grow before the cold shows up. So they let the containers sit empty on the balcony for the rest of the year. Here's the problem with that logic. It's backwards. August isn't the end of your growing season. For a specific list of vegetables, it's actually the start of one of the best harvests you'll get all year. Cooler nights, fewer pests, less weed pressure, and, for some of these crops, a little frost at the end that actually makes them taste better. The catch is if you plant the wrong thing on the wrong day in the wrong size pot, none of that matters. You'll either watch your seeds refuse to sprout in soil that's simply too hot, or you'll watch a plant that started fine just stall out and never mature before the cold arrives. So in this video, we're going through the 12 vegetables that actually work in containers this month. When to plant each one, how deep your pot needs to be, and the 2 or 3 mistakes that kill most fall container gardens before they even get started. Why August actually works. Let's deal with the myth first, because it's the thing stopping most people from even trying this. The idea that August is too late comes from thinking about spring rules in a fall context. But fall planting doesn't work like spring planting. In spring, you're racing rising heat. Your plants establish in cold soil and then have to survive the temperature climbing against them. In fall, it's the opposite. You're planting into warm soil, which means fast germination and quick early growth, and then temperatures drop as the plant matures, which for a lot of these crops is actually the ideal direction. That's not a guess. Extension research out of programs like Cornell, UNH, and NC State backs this up. Late summer plantings deal with less weed pressure, shorter pest life cycles, and, once the heat breaks, conditions that tend to produce crisper, higher quality produce than a spring crop of the same vegetable. But, and this is the part most people miss, there are 2 real obstacles standing between you and that harvest. The first is heat. Not air temperature, so much as soil temperature. Seeds like lettuce and spinach have a defense mechanism called thermoinhibition. When the soil gets above roughly 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, the seed essentially refuses to germinate at all. And here's the part that makes it worse. Containers heat up faster and hotter than garden soil. A dark plastic pot sitting in direct August sun can hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit or more right at the root zone. So the exact month you're trying to plant is also the month your container is working against you. The second obstacle is daylight. Seed packets tell you days to maturity based on peak summer sun. But by the time your fall crop is finishing up, the days are shorter and the sunlight's weaker. So that number on the packet is optimistic. Plan on your fall crops, taking 10 to 30% longer to mature than the packet says. Neither of those problems is a reason to skip fall planting. They're just the reason timing and container setup matter more in August than they do in any other month. Which is exactly what we're going to walk through, vegetable by vegetable. Early August, the long season crops. If you're watching this in the first week or 2 of August, this is your window for anything that needs a long runway before the cold shows up. Broccoli is the big one here, and it's also the one people get wrong most often. Broccoli needs 50 to 70 days to mature, and in August, it has to go in as a transplant, not a seed. Direct seeding it now just pushes head formation into the dark, freezing part of fall. It won't finish in time. It also needs real room, a 5-gallon container per plant, minimum. Skip that, and you'll get a plant that looks fine, but never actually forms a proper head. The roots just can't support it in anything smaller. Get it right, though, and you're rewarded twice. A central head in mid to late October, then side shoots for another 4 to 6 weeks after that. In fall, broccoli genuinely tastes better than spring broccoli. The heads come out tighter and sweeter. Kale goes in around the same time, and it's about as forgiving as fall vegetables get. It handles August heat better than lettuce or spinach. It'll take a container as small as 2 gallons for baby leaves or up to 5 gallons for full-size plants, and it just keeps producing. Pick the outer leaves. The center keeps growing all the way through fall and into winter. And this is where that frost you've been dreading actually works in your favor. Once temperatures drop, kale converts its stored starches into sugar. That's not a gardening myth. It's a real cryoprotective response. And it's the reason fall kale tastes noticeably sweeter than the kale you grew in July. Swiss chard is the third early August crop, and it might be the most underrated one on this list. It tolerates the heat of an August establishment better than spinach or lettuce. It's equally happy direct seeded or transplanted. And one thing to know, chard seeds actually come in little clusters, not single seeds. So you'll need to thin your seedlings to about 4 to 6 inches apart, or you'll end up with a crowded mess of thin, weak stalks. And if you're in a warmer zone, roughly zone 6 through 9, early August is also your only window for bush snap beans. These aren't cold hardy like the others. A single freeze at 32 degrees Fahrenheit kills them outright. So they only make sense if your first frost is reliably after mid-October. Direct seed them, because bean roots hate being transplanted, and you'll be picking pods every couple of days for 2 to 3 weeks starting in late September. Mid-August, root crops in quick greens. Once you're past the hottest stretch of early August, a second wave of crops opens up. Mostly things that grow fast and don't mind a slightly cooler, gentler start. Beets going now if you want root harvest by October. They need 50 to 60 days and an 8 to 10 inch deep container, so the root has room to actually form without twisting or splitting. The nice bonus with beets is you get 2 harvests out of 1 planting. Thin the seedlings early and eat the thinnings as baby greens, then let the rest mature into full roots later in the fall. Turnips work almost identically, direct seeded, needing that same 8 to 10 inch depth and giving you greens in 30 days or full roots in 45 to 55. Like beets, cold exposure sweetens the roots by converting starch into sugar. So the ones you pull after a light frost will taste noticeably better than the ones you'd pull in summer. Arugula is one of the fastest things on this entire list, 20 to 25 days for baby leaves. The one thing to watch is timing. Plant it too early into that peak heat window and it'll bolt and turn bitter almost immediately. Mid to late August is really the sweet spot. And bok choy rounds out this group. A fast-growing brassica that's ready in as little as 30 days for baby heads. If you're in a hotter southern zone, look specifically for heat-tolerant or dwarf cultivars, since standard varieties are more prone to bolting if the ground's still warm when you plant. Late August. The cold hardy sprinters. Now here's the part that surprises most people. The crops you can still plant at the very end of the month, and in some cases, into September. Radishes are the fastest vegetable on this entire list, 22 to 30 days from seed to harvest. That's not a typo. You could sow radishes today and be eating them before the month is over. Sow a new batch every 7 to 10 days, and you'll have a rolling harvest straight into October. Spinach is the one crop that actually prefers going in late. It's extremely sensitive to soil heat. Germination drops off sharply above 75 degrees Fahrenheit and stops completely above 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So waiting until late August, once the soil has cooled down a bit, dramatically improves your success rate. And once it's established, spinach is remarkably tough. It survives hard freezes down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit and, in milder climates, will actually overwinter in the pot. Leaf lettuce follows the same logic. It's semi-hardy, fine down to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. And if soil temperatures are still running hot, using transplants instead of seed will save you the frustration of watching nothing germinate. And green onions, whether you're using sets or transplants, round out the list. They're shallow-rooted, so they're perfect for narrow window boxes or tucked into the gaps of a bigger container. And they're remarkably cold-hardy, surviving well below 20 degrees Fahrenheit and often coming back again in spring. That's all 12. Broccoli, kale, chard, and bush beans early in the month. Beets, turnips, arugula, and bok choy in the middle. Radishes, spinach, lettuce, and green onions toward the end. The 2 things that actually determine success. Here's the thing nobody tells you when you're staring at a seed packet. Knowing what a plant matters less than getting these 2 details right. Container depth. This isn't a bigger is always better situation. It's specific. Root crops like beets and turnips need a container depth of at least 1.5 times the mature length of the root itself. So if a beet variety typically grows a 4-inch root, you need 6 to 8 inches of depth, minimum, or the root physically can't develop properly. It'll twist, split, or just stunt. Managing container heat. Since dark containers can push soil temperatures well past what your seeds can tolerate, the fix is simple. Shade your pots during the hottest part of the afternoon, especially in the first 2 weeks after planting. Some gardeners even double pot, sliding a planted container inside a larger one, specifically to buffer that root zone from direct heat. It sounds like a small thing, but it's often the single difference between a container that germinates evenly and one that just doesn't. Get those two things right, and honestly, most of what we just covered takes care of itself. So that's your August container lineup: 12 vegetables, 3 planting windows, and a fall harvest that, if you time it right, is genuinely better than what you'd get from the same crops in spring. But knowing what to plant is only half of it. The other half is keeping these containers alive once the first real cold snap hits. Because a lot of gardeners lose their fall harvest in October, not August, simply because they weren't ready to protect it. If this saved you from writing off your gardening season too early, let me know in the comments which of these 12 you're planting first. And subscribe if you want the rest of this fall container series as it comes out.